Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Marvel Spider-Man Spectacular Difficulty video walkthrough. This is the Fisk Hideout mission, and these are probably the most demanding side missions outside of the particularly challenging Taskmaster tasks, which, I don't know if you've tried those yet, guys, but they are legitimately demanding. It's kind of crazy. Traditionally in sandbox games, even in Insomniac's sandbox games, the side missions aren't too bad at all, as I get stuck on a piece of metal there, which is always fun. Sunset Overdrive is a great example of it. I didn't have any problems with getting the highest score on every single activity in Sunset Overdrive, yet the Taskmaster requirements in this game are going to push people to learn patterns and understand exactly what you're supposed to be doing, which is kind of awesome, but it's going to piss off a lot of completionists that don't like earning things, so that's always interesting. But the hideouts are really interesting, guys. You take on generally 6 waves of enemies. There are a lot of enemies. One of the things you're going to notice about this Spider-Man game is that it makes you fight dozens of people. And you're either going to like that or you're not, but that's what the game is, so you're going to have to accept it. And how this works is, it generally always begins as a stealth section, where you can go around taking people down using the strike takedowns or the perch takedowns and things like that, using your gadgets. Or you can start fighting, and if you get spotted, the same result happens. So when you get spotted, people start attacking you, and then you have to finish up whatever you didn't get rid of. Over on the left hand side, you'll notice there's some bonus objectives. What that particular piece of statistic does is, if you adhere to those challenges while you do any of the activities in the world, you will accrue more tokens of whatever the thing you're doing is. And that will enable you to make Spider-Man even stronger than he starts as, and he starts pretty damn bloody strong. But a couple of things to know right here, guys. There's a really interesting mechanic in this game that tells you whether or not people will see you take somebody down. This is such a powerful tool that I question its existence, even though it's really handy. So, do you notice how when I press my scanner, it says danger next to that guard down there? It's also gone pinky colour to tell me that I can press square and perch take down him. If I take him down right now, I'll get spotted. But if I wait for that particular piece of font to say safe, it means whatever I do then will not be spotted, and I'll get away with it. And the game is very strict and stringent to adhering to this policy. So if you time everything correctly and you isolate people and separate people, you can get rid of everybody on a building site, have the entire place strung up like Christmas, but instead of lights and decorations, it's humans in webbing, and nobody seems to know. And it's this ultimately powerful technique that you can use to make these sections a joke, basically. And a lot of the stealth sections in the game are really easy. They're quite long, but they're super easy because of just how capable Spider-Man is. The difference between web strike down takedowns and the perch takedowns is, one of them is where Spider-Man brings the person to him, and the other one is Spider-Man goes to the person. So I would always favour pressing square because it seems to be the one that's the safest, but if you need to cover distance quickly and you want to do these fast and do like speed runs of them, triangle is going to be your best friend. And you can use a whole host of mechanics here, like using web to lure people away and all these future tools that the game's going to teach us, because at this moment in time we haven't had those tutorials yet, but you don't need them. Spoiler alert, I'm going to get alerted, it happens. And then it moves into the second phase of these activities, which leads me to the checkpoints, which I didn't think this section would have. So conventionally, in any kind of wave-based arena gauntlet style area like this, most games wouldn't give you a checkpoint. They'd expect you to do all 6 waves on one checkpoint. And that's kind of the way that games have been for a lot of this. That's the challenge of them. They're gauntlets, they're marathons, right? Endurance races. This one isn't. And I don't know if it's because it's just this one and it's story related, or if they do it in the other ones, because I've only done 2 other one of these places and I didn't have any problems with them, so I didn't have to rely on the checkpoints. But it seems like they've put 2 checkpoints in here, which is kind of crazy. You get a checkpoint at wave 2 if you fail, and you get a checkpoint at wave 4 if you fail, I believe. I was doing it the other night to try and double check it, and it definitely seems like they're very generous with checkpoints. And as a content producer like myself, it makes it a little bit difficult to make this as clean as I would like, because I'd have to abandon the mission and redo it. But at the time, I just kind of went with it, because that's essentially what I do for walkthroughs a lot of the time. I don't know if I agree with the checkpoints, but I'd rather have them than not have them, you know? It makes it easier, but at the same time, I think it can detract from what it is as a mechanic. Because this is meant to be a massive, like, hideout, isn't it? I'm taking down a base. It's this big, intimidating thing. And to have such comfortability is pretty interesting, so kudos to Insomniac for that. I wasn't expecting it. And you're going to see some pretty weird transitions too, because when you do make a mistake, which I inevitably always do, and there was the mistake, by the way, guys, someone saw that, and thus everybody turns up, and then there's the transition of me showing you where you spawn when you restart checkpoint. And you might be wondering, Chris, what hit you? It was the guns. It's always the guns, guys. And it's pretty interesting, because I mentioned something on Twitter about the weapons in this game, and it got featured on something for some reason. I don't really know why. So last night I had over 60 notifications from people I've never talked to once, pretty much analysing my tweet, which is new to me, and quite interesting, actually. It was a discussion I wasn't expecting, and it was a lot of different opinions, but it's a topic for a different discussion, and here we are. So I move up to this top building on this part here. It makes the fight slower, which is not ideal, but it means that no one can shoot you, which is very, very important. Because the guns are not necessarily threatening, guys, they're just annoying. They affect flow, and they make it so that you are constantly being interrupted while you're trying to deal with other people. The game wants you to deal with people with guns first, that's what it wants you to do, but in these particular scenarios they intentionally spawn them at great distances from you, which means you have to go all the way over somewhere else, mess with somebody, and then come all the way back. And instead of doing that, I've opted to stay up here out of their range, so all the standard guys come to me and I can get rid of them. You'll notice that I've purchased the web swing, which is probably my favourite move in the game, because you can do some really nasty loops with it. And now we're getting attacked by a guy with a stun baton, and there's people throwing grenades. So the smoke grenade that you just saw is going to be the same preset as every grenade. Whenever somebody throws one at you, use L1 and R1 to chuck it. The moment you grab it, you are safe from it. It doesn't matter what you do with it. It gives you complete blanket immunity, and it's really useful. The reason you can't ignore them is because they've got incredible range and they can hit you in the air, so you need to be really, really careful with them. A cool thing you can do on a roof such as this is you can swing into people and just knock them off. You can repeatedly swing into them, knock them off, knock them off, knock them off, and it makes the fight very quick. However, this is 6 waves, and I screwed it up on the second wave, so we're going to have to fight 4 waves of people. If you're willing to abandon the mission, you can stealth it all, and you'll have a much easier time. But if I'm honest, I prefer the combat to the stealth sequences, and I really like fighting in this game. And I'm going to do it when I get the opportunity to do it, you know? But a couple of uppercuts into some webbing, into some finishers, into... You know when you get that little bit of saliva at the back of your throat and it kills your ability to breathe and speak and be a human being? I just totally got that. But here is the inevitable. I got shot at the end of wave 6, which was heartbreaking, and I have to do all of this again. So I moved over to this particular piece of roof, because this is where I got shot from. And there's a couple of shield men here who will block your swing with the kick, but if you hit them off angle, or if you hit them while they're attacking, you'll still get the desired effect. And this strategy is just an extension of what we started in the other area. It's just a little bit merciless. Because there's something really frustrating about getting to the end of the 6 waves and getting shot. It's pretty funny. As that guy must be dead. There's no way Spider-Man is a pacifist with that one. You know, this guy is breaking backs and making quadriplegics left, right and centre, but it's okay because he webs them up afterwards, which makes it okay. There's a grenade. That guy's got a really good hand on him as well. I don't mind the grenades though. I feel like the grenades are a necessary evil, right? The guns aren't. The guns just kill the flow of the game and frustrate more than they do anything else. The grenades have a purpose and can be used intelligently against the enemies, which I really like. So they don't bug me whatsoever. The Molotovs are probably the worst thing in the game. Which, I love the Molotovs. The Molotovs are game design 101, being egregiously ignored. It's such a beautiful thing to see. Like, remember how when the guy throws a grenade, he's got a bit of a deliberate tell to it and you can hear the beeping immediately? Well, get rid of all of that and you have the Molotovs. You don't even get spider sense warnings from them. They don't make a sound. There isn't some kind of graphic to show they're going to do it. You just get instant 2-framed Molotoved. It's amazing. And they only turn up in one part of the game. It's really strange. I don't really understand that. And I tweeted about that as well. The game has an enemy diversity problem, and it's not what you think. This game has tons of enemies. It has really, really good different enemies that force you into different setups and to do different things and push you out of your comfort zone, but they don't use them enough. So you spend the entire game fighting like 3 whip guys, and the whip guys are pretty cool, but you'll fight so few of them if you do the main missions that you never really learn how to fight them. Same with the sword guys. You fight like 5 sword guys, you fight like 3 of the demon shield guys, and yet you fight 50 million people with guns, and the guns are the worst part of the game. Like, I don't understand that. It seems so strange. And that was a rocket launcher guy who, I really like the rocket launcher men in this game. The rocket launcher guys are really fair. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They're a continual nuisance until you get rid of them, but they're not bullshit. And I like that. And I like that when you get hit by the rocket launcher, it does incredible damage. If anything, I think it should do more, because it's a bloody rocket launcher, right? But then it brings me to the topic of the skill trees, which is something that kind of irritates me. I'm not a big fan of having to pick the moves in a stratum to get to the next tier that I don't want. So a good example of this would be, there is an ability to web rockets and throw it back at its owner, which I think is a fantastic ability, but I've never used it because to get to it I have to buy things that I disagree with, and I'll never be able to get that now because it's something that I don't do. And I don't understand why they allow you to do that. It'd be really nice if instead of buying the ability that precedes it, if it cost an extra skill point and you could hop over. That'd be really, really cool. Because then it'd mean that you could invest in things and make your own Spider-Man earlier than the game intends you to have him. But just a couple of food for thought. That is essentially just a side mission being put into the main game to give you an idea of what you can do. But there you go, guys. Fisk's Hideout. Thank you for watching. You take care now.